G'day, welcome back to Game Chambers. We have an ENT Ladder battle, best of three for you today. I keep forgetting to record these and I keep forgetting to save the replays, but I had a good match against Chuck Don't Surf today. Couple of different matches for you. I've picked the Empire and Vampire counts at the start of the pick and ban phase, and Chuck Don't Surf has gone and picked the Dwarves. And then I've selected the Empire. I do realise this is a bad matchup, but at least I know the Empire better than I know the Vampire counts, and I felt more comfortable bringing the Empire to this fight than the Vampire counts. So I've come in with a front line of state troops, so a couple of spearmen on the left flank and the rest of them are swordsmen. Tried to just get as many shielded units as I could, but there's just a couple that I had to drop the shields from just to fit a few more bodies to try and stem the dwarves. I've gone with the four great cannons as the core of this build to try and deal with any dwarven artillery pieces that might come along. And for stopping power to deal with the dwarven armor, I have 3 units of great swords, 3 units of handguns, and the silver bullets at the back. I have come in with the grey wizard with Humble Pendulum and I'll find it in a second, and the withering to lower armor and leadership, just in case the state troops are in a situation where they might actually be able to win the fight. I brought the Hunstman General with these oil flask and the Hail of Fire. My thoughts were I could use this Hail of Fire to get a greater firing rate out of the cannons or the handguns, and at this point I wasn't 100% sure on how it worked. I thought it was more placeable, like Flaming Sword of Ruin rather than an AoE around himself. I should have read the ability closer, and you'll see I misclick it or click it coming up ahead and just buff some swordsmen a bit later on. So for Chuck Don't Surf, he has a group of blasting charges on his miners, so 2 units with blasting charges, 1 unit without, a couple of units of dwarf warriors with great weapons, and 2 units of normal dwarf warriors, 2 units of slayers, 1 being the dragonback slayers, 2 units of longbeards, 1 being the grumbling guard, and 2 units of thunderers, backed up by a single cannon, a master engineer, and Thorek Ironbrow. So I've definitely got the ranged artillery superiority and definitely have the dwarves outgunned here, so the dwarves are going to have to advance, and he does so as my great cannons tee off on the dwarven cannon there. I start moving my state troops forward. I want to try and engage the dwarves a little bit out so they don't get completely overrun too quickly, and I've sent the Huntsman General forward to try and get a little bit of harass early on so we can snipe a couple of the slayers I think I was actually going for, but ended up not really doing a whole lot at all. So we're just moving forward. The cannon's doing quite well. Already dropped 1 of the dwarven cannons, so it won't be long before 4 cannons manage to take care of that. I'm just basically sitting back and waiting for the dwarves to get in range, and I do want to engage. I do start bringing the great swords forward, and then I notice the blasting charges and pull them back. I don't want them to be taking blasting charges or handgun fire, so I want to try and keep the great swords fresh for as long as possible. And there's that buff that I throw down on the swordsman, so fire damage and reload skill on swordsman. It does actually make their melee attack flaming. That could have some niche uses, but certainly not in this matchup. Chuck Don't Surf doing well here, sending the slayers around the flanks. I do send 1 unit of spearmen to try and intercept, and I think I've got the Huntsman General shooting this unit, trying to drop a few. I get the handguns trying to tee off on the miners, trying to prevent any blasting charges, but I don't actually kill them quick enough, and I don't respond quick enough with this swordsman unit to prevent the blasting charges, and they lose about 40% of their health and 9 models. I do try and move them now, but it's already a little bit too late, and then this one is also taking the blasting charges, so my frontline engagement is already going very poorly. I do try and send them in though. We need these state troops to try and hold the dwarves back, and the cannons I switch on to Thorek Ironbrow because at this point the dwarf cannons have been completely shut down. I'm trying to bring Thorek down. I've seen plenty of games where he is the last dwarf standing, and I do not want this to be one of those. So we've got a bit of a double up here from Chuck Don't Surf. 2 units on 1 is never efficient. But there's a nice Wrath and Ruin down on my handgunners. And the Dwarf Warriors with great weapons have broken through the centre line, so they're onto my handgunners, and now I'm going to have to start scattering. But I do have my reserve greatswords, so they're starting to come forward to try and defend my guns. We have a pendulum go down, which was supposed to go down this way, but I misclicked and sent it in the wrong direction, so not a good start on the magic front there. These greatswords managed to intercept the dragonback slayers and get an engagement there, and these spearmen are too slow for the slayers. Chuck Don't Surf sort of drifting them around the back quite easily and getting away from my spearmen. So I do bring these guns back to try and get them away from this horde of dwarves. And we have a very messy engagement here. It's a 3-on-2, and we have the greatswords here fighting as well, another 2-on-1. And here we've got 2 dwarf warriors and longbeards fighting on these handgunners. So these are definitely engagements that you don't want to be taking, especially when you have the upper hand. So maybe these ones you want to keep doubling up on the greatswords. But against handguns, you could definitely pull one of these units out to bring them around. Got some troops in the back line. Greatswords trying to stop the Slayers getting into the back, but the Slayers are swift little dwarves, so speed 30 compared to the greatswords. Speed 40 compared to the greatswords 28, which is a fairly significant difference. So I do bring the Huntsman General over to try and slow them down, but it's a little bit too late, and they are already onto my cannons. But guns teeing off on them. Guns against Slayers is not a very efficient use of the guns, but they'll kill Slayers as quickly as they'll kill any other dwarf, so it is still well worth doing. This unit of great swords has been finally defeated by Thorek, Ironbrow, and the combined efforts of the Great Weapon Warriors, Grumbling Guard, and the Miners. And we now have some handgunners teeing off on the unshielded dwarves in the middle there. This unit of swordsmen is about to become overwhelmed as well, not going to be able to hold themselves very long. There's a lot of dwarves here all grouped up on my great cannons, allowing the handguns to keep firing as I bring some great swords and spearmen in to try and stem the tide and try and keep my guns firing. Huntsman General just shooting on in, not doing a whole lot of damage. He's only got 4 kills at this point, so only 241 value. I'm not sure what I had him shooting at, but he's not using a whole lot of his ammo. I might have accidentally put him on hold fire and then not been actually firing, which would be kind of funny. Is he actually doing anything? Oh, he just took a shot from the Master Engineer to the face then, so he's doing something. He's taking shots from the Engineer. So I've switched the cannons onto Thorek up the back here. Still firing away, still got 1 cannon on him. He's not doing too well. The cannon is still going, and we've got these unit of guns here, I think, also teeing off on him. And there we go, the cannons bring down Thorek Ironbrow. It's a pretty good win because Thorek can carry games pretty well all by himself. Although against so much black powder, if we can keep that going, he can bring the Dwarf Lords down quite well. So this Master Engineer definitely doing good work on the poor Huntsman General, who I don't think has fired a shot since we last looked at him. He's still got 38 ammo. I'm not sure what I was doing there. Trying to keep falling back with these guns and keep them firing. And doing the same over here. So Greatsword's moving in to try and protect these guns, because I know these guns are what I'm going to win the game with. So I need to sort of keep them going. We got a big unit of Longbeards here, and a unit of Dwarf Warriors with Great Weapons fighting a Spearman unit. So the Dwarf Warriors could probably do that by themselves. And Chuck Down Surf sees that, and he pulls the Longbeards in to try and chase after the guns, along with these 4 Slayers. What do we have in the middle? We got some Great Swords and Spearmen fighting some Miners and some compromised Thunderers. And I charge some more Great Swords in on the back to try and deal with that. Now that's a poor engagement for myself. I don't need 2 units of Great Swords and a unit of Spearmen to deal with Thunderers and Miners in close combat. So one of those Great Sword units could have gone elsewhere and been a bit more useful. I've managed to get the guns scattered all over the map, so it's very hard to get them shut down, and they're getting cross lanes of fire all over the place here. And at this point it's starting to become a bit of a challenge for even the Dwarves to hold on, as their morale starts to break from the handgun crossfire. And if we speed it up a little bit, we just have Thorek left in the middle. Not Thorek, sorry, the Master Engineer, now being chased by some Greatswords. This unit of Longbeards could have potentially brought the game back, I suppose. They do go through the cannon crew, and I don't know, I think they're chasing the Huntsman General here, but they probably should have been going for the handgunners and shutting them down as quickly as they could. Another fiery ring trying to hit the moving greatswords. And now it's basically just clean up as the Dwarven morale breaks and army losses kicks in, and the Dwarves are sent packing on their way. It was a good game. A good game against Chuck Don't Surf. He was admitted to being fairly new to the multiplayer scene and new to the Dwarves and the matchup in general, and I think he did quite well. It is a favourable one for the Dwarves, but I think this build had the tools to deal with it and managed to keep the guns firing and take out the artillery and Thorek Ironbrow before they managed to do too much damage. So I'll quickly go through and have a look at the value. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this Huntsman General wasn't shooting. I must have turned him off fire at will, because he's got 8 kills and 273 value, so he hasn't done a whole lot at all, and he barely even used his ability. So I think I won despite him, not because of any particular benefits that he did. Same with the Grey Wizard, also did fairly poorly with dropping those pendulums, and he also contributed very little to that fight. So I did not use my hero core very well at all. The front line of state troops, you don't expect them to make their cost back against the Dwarves. They are just there to hold up for as long as they can and keep the guns firing. Great Swords though, 1700 value on this one, 700 on that one, and 610 on that one. So these two didn't make their value back. This one did, however. Now most of the value probably came from the guns, so we got one of them here made its value back, and the Silver Bullets did okay. Though the Silver Bullets probably could have just been replaced by normal handgunners in this matchup. There's no real benefit to bring the Silver Bullets. And the cannons, all with the exception of one, did quite well across the board, so I don't know what happened to that one. Might have been obstructed early on. For Chuck Don't Surf, Thorek got a little bit of value. The Master Engineer did quite well for himself. I think he was teeing off on my Huntsman General and my Mage for most of that game. The Blasting Charges on the Miners did really well. The Dwarf Warriors, of course, won their respective fights against the state troops. And the Grumbling Guard did really well for themselves. The Thunderers and the Dwarf Cannon still managed to get a little bit of value before it was shut down. So good game to Chuck Don't Surf there. So that was the first match in our best of 3. And then we went into the next round. For round 2, Chuck Don't Surf selected his 2 factions as Chaos and Lizardmen. Now I've been playing the Chaos vs High Elf matchup quite a lot lately, and quite well practiced in it and come on with a few different builds to try it out. So I thought if I select the High Elves, Chaos is considered a counter to them, and we'll see how we go, and I'll try out another new build. So that's what we have here. I have selected High Elves into Chaos. I've gone with the Princess on the Griffin with the volley of high arrows to help deal with the Hell Cannon. I've also gone with a Mage of Fire on a Sun Dragon with Fireball, Cascading Fire Cloak, and Searing Doom. Across the front line, I've gone with 5 White Lions. They fight really solidly against everything on the Chaos roster, and 5 Shadow Warriors to remain stealthed from the Hell Cannon, and they also deal very well with the Chaos Skirmish. Now for Chuck Don't Surf, he's gone with a single Hell Cannon and Archaon, 2 units of Marauder throwing axes, a Exalted Hero in the Sky, 2 Chaos Warrior Halberds, 2 Forsaken and a normal Chaos Warrior, 3 Chaos Marauders in the front, and a couple of Hounds with poison to deal with, to try and get on my back line. So immediately the Hell Cannon is coming in to try and hit. What's it going for? Going for the White Lions, probably the best target here. And I move the Mage of Fire up to overcast a Fireball onto the Hell Cannon to try and deal some damage to it. While the I notice he doesn't have a whole lot of missile pressure, so the Princess can come up and also use a volley of high arrows on it. I was hoping that this 1-2 punch would actually kill it, but it doesn't quite take it out, so I do need to have another shot at it. So I keep moving the White Lions forward to try and engage on the Chaos Infantry, and that was a nice hit there from the Hell Cannon on the Mage of Fire. And I'm bringing the Shadow Warriors around this way because I don't really want to get them on the hit by the Hounds. So there goes another Fireball from the Mage of Fire onto the Hell Cannon, which should hopefully... Yep, takes that one out. So we've now don't have to worry about the Hell Cannon anymore, and now we can just bring our White Lions forward into this melee. So at this point, I probably should have brought the White Lions back. There was no need for me to move and engage. I should have now used the Shadow Warriors a bit more and kited, but I've decided to engage the White Lions across the line, and probably to their detriment. So I'm bringing the Mage of Fire up and around here, thinking about trying to get a breath weapon on these Chaos Warriors, but we have a nice Burning Head go down the line here, and it picks up 1, 2, and all 3 of my White Lion units. So that was a really good Burning Head by Archaon there. That's absolutely devastating. 2 units are broken and fleeing already, and the 3rd is so badly injured it's probably not going to be able to keep fighting. We've got the Hounds chasing the Shadow Warriors who are trying to pull back and away. And I think a breath weapon went down in here, yeah, on these Chaos Warriors from the Mage of Fire, who is now trying to chase off after these Marauder Horsemen, but she should really have pulled away. She should not be fighting those throwing axes. They are going to bring her down really quickly. Princess dives in here on the Hounds to try and get the Shadow Warriors free for a little bit, who will then tee off on the Hounds to try and kill them. And the Forsaken are now coming in, so these Shadow Warriors are going to have to get moving because they don't want anything to do with those Forsaken. Princess is definitely in trouble over here. The Exalted Hero is now fighting her as well. She does manage to drop a really nice Searing Doom down on these Chaos Warriors with Halberds and normal Chaos Warriors. And we have another bit of blobbing going on here. So, oh, nice Burning Head coming in, but I managed to split the Shadow Warriors from that and don't take much damage at all from that. And I just want to try and keep them moving now. Now this here, we have a lot of troops blobbed up on only a couple of units. So we've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, potentially 5 or 6 units getting held up by 24 White Lions, so that's definitely not good here. So this dragon is being chased by the Exalted Hero, so I throw down Cascading Fire Cloak and turn around, and immediately the dragon takes a massive chunk out of that Exalted Hero. The Exalted Hero still does really well though, manages to break the dragon, but not before the Princess and the dragon manage to do some good damage to the Exalted Hero. Throwing axes are trying to provide support, but they're sort of going a little bit all over the place as the Princess is ducking and weaving in the middle of that duel. The Shadow Warriors continue to try and kite, Archaon getting into them, getting a few kills here and there. Princess then tries to dive in and chase off these throwing axes, but she has the same speed. I think they're both... Well, she got 113 at the moment because she has used Foe Seeker, but usually I think they're both 90 speed. So we've got a huge blob fight going on over here. This is not beneficial to the Chaos player at all. So Chuck Don't Surf needs to probably split these units up a little bit, but luckily I didn't have any AoEs to drop on them. That would have been a very nice Searing Doom there. But I'm throwing more of the White Lions back in to try and keep this fight going. But it's definitely not a good fight going on here. Shadow Warriors continuing to try and kite as more Chaos Warhounds come in. Cascading Fire Cloak going down on the Warhounds to try and give them a little bit of extra damage and melee defense, but the Shadow Warriors managed to break them with their missile fire. Archaon keeps trying to fight them there, and they just kind of keep moving away from him. So he can kill 1s and 2s here and there, but he's not really going to kill the entire unit by himself. Princess taking a fair bit of damage from these Marauder Horsemen, but I'm trying to see how much blob damage that Volley of High Arrows does, and it does very little. I was hoping it would how grouped up they were, it might have done a bit of damage, because I'm starting to get a little bit of worried about how many Forsaken and Chaos Warriors are left, how low my ammunition is, how low my Princess's health is, and how few White Lions I have left. So I'm just trying to get these Shadow Warriors over here to support, to try and deal with these Marauder Horsemen, while my Princess is just doing a bit of range fire. So I think I've just got them on fire at will because they're shooting things that they don't really need to be shooting here. The Shadow Warriors are still moving around. I try now. I see one Forsaken unit is quite low, so I focus fire the whole unit, or the whole 5 units onto that one, and then I try and drop the Princess in on this back unit of Chaos Warriors and see if I can get a terror out. It doesn't really go to plan, and I want to get out of there before those Halberds get onto me and before those Marauder Horsemen actually manage to pin the Princess in. So I'm trying to drop these Marauder Horsemen. They are lighter targets and easier for the Shadow Warriors to kill. Princess sees this Marauder unit, and I think she goes to try and break them, or is she just trying to get out of range of their throwing axes at the moment? Reforming ranks here a little bit. Got left of the White Lions I have forming up, and I see I've got one unit of White Lions. It's actually won its battle and ended up way out on the flank here, so I'm going to try and bring them back in. Princess trying to chase off after the Marauder Horsemen again. She manages to rout them both, and they are probably going to come back again. I see Archaon thinking about coming in, so the Princess has to get back up into the air. Shadow Warriors are starting to run very low on ammo, so I'm now just trying to conserve it. Probably should have been conserving it a lot earlier, and they're trying to just pick off units that are low now to try and break them. Cascading Fire Cloak goes down by Archaon again to boost his attack and damage, and I see him coming straight for the Princess, and she does not want any of that. So Archaon with the Cascading Fire Cloak will just absolutely make a mess of her. She's only got 1,000 hit points left. That's probably only 2 hits from him, and she would be completely 100% dead. With 78 melee attack, with her 38 melee defense, she's pretty much guaranteed to hit them as well. So she's now up in the air. I realise at this point she's got 15 arrows left. We might as well try and put them into Archaon before we have to fight him on the ground, because we are pretty much out of ammunition here. So the Shadow Warriors are all exhausted. We have the White Lions coming back in, and they're trying to fight, but we are I'm thinking it's looking pretty grim here at the moment, but the balance of power is actually, yeah, it's actually quite heavily in Chaos's favour with all the Forsaken and Chaos Warriors left, and all I have is Shadow Warriors and a handful of, or 1 unit of White Lions now. So Shadow Warriors are all moving in. They do have to engage in melee. They're not rubbish in melee. They're 39 melee attack, 35 melee defense. They've picked up a chevron. And so they're going to try and fight these Chaos Warriors. They are heavily, the Chaos Warriors are heavily outnumbered, and we do have the terror from the Griffin in the sky. So she's just floating above the fight, shooting down on Archaon, trying to get as much damage on him as she can before she runs out of ammunition. The Marauder Horsemen come back, so she heads off to chase off after them. See if she can get another break on them, because they will do some good damage to her. And she's only got 1,000 hit points left and does not really want to take any more damage than she has to. Archaon's steadily taking a few little chip damage from all the Shadow Warriors surrounding him. And we have a big mess in here of Forsaken and Chaos Warriors fighting against Shadow Warriors in melee, with a unit of White Lions trying to pick off the halberds here on the flank. Princess manages to break those Marauder Horsemen and comes back in to try and put some damage onto Archaon. It's a nice rear charge on him there that connects, and she pulls away immediately before he has a chance to turn around, because he does have Slayer of Kings active and she does not want to get hit by that. So she hits Foe Seeker to try and get back up into the air. She did take 100 damage from the Chaos Warrior halberds, I think, on the charge in, but now most of the Chaos troops have broken and fleeing, while the Shadow Warriors are now all committed and trying to do what they can to try and drag down these Chaos Warriors here and Archaon himself. So they've still got 2,000 hit points, and we've got, what, 29, 34 and 39 Shadow Warriors. This one unit has broken off to chase off after this Forsaken. I don't want them coming back, because they could definitely win this fight. The Shadow Warriors shouldn't be able to beat these Chaos Warriors. Princess is still flying above Archaon. Got a couple more arrows left to put into him, and she's managed to get him down to 1,700 hit points, and she is still on 900, so he is still going to be extremely difficult to deal with, but she's not quite ready to commit to melee, and really doesn't want to commit to melee if she doesn't have to. So the last arrow is gone. Archaon took a fair bit of damage there from the charge from the White Lion, so he's dropped down to 1,400. Got Foe Seeker on him, so the Princess charges on him, gets a nice hit on him there, drops him down to 1,000 hit points. And she hits him again, drops him to 600. She's still got 900 health, so it's looking pretty good here for her. She's definitely winning the fight at the moment. And now I notice that we're starting to lose troops, so if I don't get her out now, the attacking rule is going to force her to remain in combat. So while these Shadow Warriors are still fighting, I think I do pull her away, but Archaon also tried to disengage as well. So we are both up in the air, both disengaged. Princess did take a hit from him there, she's dropped down to 500. Archaon is down to 600 health. These Shadow Warriors are broken, but so did the Chaos Warriors. These Shadow Warriors over here have managed to shatter off the last of those Forsaken, and we now have a handful of Shadow Warriors, a nearly dead Princess, and she goes in for the attack on Archaon, and she misses the charge. She misses the second attack there, and she's going to... Archaon comes in, looks like he misses the attack on her, and so she starts pulling back up into the air. So I don't really want to fight Archaon without support, and I do need to make sure these Chaos Warriors with halberds don't come back. So Shadow Warriors are chasing them down. I throw one unit of Shadow Warriors at Archaon to try and deal with him, and now that he's engaged, the Princess comes in for a rear charge, and he's got 600 health, and she hits him down to 260. He activates the Slayer of Kings and turns around, and one hit, and the Princess is down on the ground. Archaon is now Archaon versus the remnants of the Shadow Warriors. He looks like he's pretty much got this fight, but he decides it's not for him, and with one unit of 24 Shadow Warriors left on the field, Archaon flees and leaves the battlefield. So that was a very close game, well fought by my opponent Chuck Don't Surf. It was a close match, but in the end it looks like the Lord of the End Times decided that a few Shadow Warriors were a bit much for him, and he managed to head on out. So a few errors on both sides of the battle in that one. definitely both of us could have played a lot better, but it was a very fun game. Chuck Don't Surf is a great opponent. Let's have a look at some values here. So the Princess did very well, 2,800 value nearly, so she's only about 1,500 herself, I think, up on that Griffin. So that's actually quite a lot of value for her, well worth it. And the Major Fire, I don't know if that quite paid for herself on the Dragon, but dealing with the Hell Cannon was definitely a good use of her. I should have kept her back with the Shadow Warriors, so definitely played the whole army wrong. We should have kited once we destroyed the Hell Cannon, let the Shadow Warriors do a bit more work, and then let the White Lions fight afterwards. So you can see the White Lions pretty much across the board lost or undervalued in the fight, but the Shadow Warriors did quite well, a couple of them doing well over their value and some nearly making back their value. But it was definitely the Princess and to a lesser extent the Major Fire that carried us that game. Archaon did very well as well, 2,800 value, got one burning head that nearly wiped out 3 units of White Lions. It was very nice. The Exalted Hero did a bit of damage to the Major Fire on the Dragon before getting routed off. And the rest of the troops were fighting White Lions and chasing Shadow Warriors for most of the games. One of the Halberds did quite well. The Throwing Axes did really well for themselves. They did a lot of damage to the Major Fire and to the Princess. And the Chaos Warhounds struggled to get onto the Shadow Warriors. So even if they do get on the Shadow Warriors can fight quite well, and they're quite good at seeing off hounds. And the Hell Cannon, we managed to bring that down fairly quickly with a combination of the Firewall and the volley of high arrows. Might try that combination again, see if the volley of high arrows can get lucky and get the single shot on the Hell Cannon, or I might have to look at other options to bring it down as quickly as possible, because I do struggle with the double Hell Cannon build that I've fought against before. I'm not sure how well this would go against that, but I definitely need to play it better as well. But overall, fun games against Chuck Don't Surf on the ENT Ladder. If you're not playing on the ENT Ladder, it's a good way to get matches that are not bound to the toxicity of the normal built-in ladder written by Enticity. So it's a lot of fun. I always play a best of 3, get to play for a couple of different factions, and I've met a lot of great people on there. So thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video.